There's a peculiar trend being embraced by many of the top cinematographers in Hollywood. And it looks like this. How is this look achieved? Why is it so popular? And what does it all have to do with a 19th century Hungarian mathematician?
Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that one.
This is What is a Petzval Lens? Before we dive into distortion, subscribe to StudioBinder and enable notifications to stay up to date on all our videos. Now, to fire up the time machine. This unique look we're focusing on is the work of a Petzval Lens, named after its creator, Joseph Petzval, who invented the instrument in 1840. To understand what makes the Petzval lens special, you need to understand the environment in which it was made. In 1840, photography was in its infancy. One of the most popular photographic processes at the time was the daguerreotype, which often used Chevalier lenses. The Petzval lens was a revolutionary improvement upon the Chevalier lens for two reasons. First, it was exponentially faster. The average exposure time for a Chevalier lens was 10 minutes. The Petzval, meanwhile, was 30 seconds. Its f-stop could go down to 3.6, capturing 22 times the amount of light its competitors could. Second, the Petzval was the first lens to be constructed based on optical laws. Joseph Petzval had a unique background as a mathematics professor and used his knowledge to make the lens sharper than anything else on the market. His lens comprised two doublet lenses with an aperture stop between them. These two lenses worked together to cancel out each other's optical aberrations to result in an ultra-sharp center of frame, which made them ideal for portraiture. It's the Petzval's unique construction that creates its distinct look. The most recognizable characteristic of the Petzval is its extreme fall-off towards the edges of the frame, a byproduct of Petzval's two-lens approach, which creates a drastic field curvature, where the plane of focus is not flat, but curved. This is in contrast to other lenses which correct this aberration using a field flattener. Initially, the Petzval's fall-off was seen as a disadvantage, but today it's embraced. Poor Things cinematographer Robbie Ryan explains, Petzvals are really beautiful. The edges are quite extreme, and the focus is in the dead center, so you feel like you're in a vortex. And they were perfect for the portraiture work. As Ryan notes, Petzval's fall-off has a distinct look, creating a swirly bokeh. The fall-off can also come in the form of vignetting, especially when shot wide open. Another Petzval characteristic is that its images are typically lower contrast than most modern lenses, adding to its vintage feel. So how do cinematographers use this centuries-old lens? First, it's important to note that the Petzvals most cinematographers are using are not, in fact, centuries old. The most popular Petzval today is built by lomography, but the manufacturer has largely stayed faithful to the original design, adding a few customizations for additional control. The lomography lens, for example, allows cinematographers to choose the amount of fall-off, from very subtle to very pronounced. They can also open up much more than the original Petzval, down to an f1.7. Like the original Petzval, lomography lenses have a space for aperture plates and includes multiple types of plates to give your bokeh different shapes. For most Petzvals, it is important to shoot with a full-frame camera, where the sensor size has a full field of view. With a cropped frame, where the sensor is smaller and therefore has a limited field of view, the Petzval's signature effect won't be as visible, since the edges of the lens won't be captured. And although there are additional controls afforded by newer versions, one thing remains the same. Your subject needs to be in the center of the frame, or they'll be out of focus. Because of their unique design, Petzvals typically don't allow for autofocus. On larger, big-budget productions, lomography lenses have been rehoused to fit cinematographers' specific needs. On Poor Things, for example, the lenses were housed in an aluminum chassis and shot at the widest apertures possible, T2.1 for the 58mm and T2.3 for the 85mm. Sometimes a cinematographer can create a Petzval look without a Petzval. This is a favorite approach by Jaron Blaschke. On The Witch, Blaschke used Series 2 Cook-speed Panchros, which have a similar feel to the Petzval, which he describes. The backgrounds, when thrown out of focus, have a globular look. They have a swirling effect that, in combination with vignetting, draws your eye to the center, which works well for symmetrical compositions. It has a transcendent, witchy feel to it. It's like looking through a porthole or crystal ball. On The Northman, meanwhile, Blaschke used primo sphericals, which were modified to have round irises and barrel distortion, creating a Petzval-like fall-off. But whether the look is created by a Petzval or not, why exactly have so many cinematographers fallen in love with it? Renewed interest in Petzvals come from a new problem cinematographers are wrestling with: the fidelity of digital cameras. Today, many cinematographers feel that the look of digital cameras is too clean, resulting in an image without much character. One common solution to this issue is using retro lenses, which can help make digital footage look less pristine. But why in particular has the use of the Petzval proliferated? The most simple answer is that it creates beautiful shots that have a dreamlike and surreal quality. The lens captures distinct, emotive looks for portraits without bringing an overwhelming or distracting level of stylization. The other answer is accessibility. A big part of the Petzval's resurgence has to do with lomography, which ran a Kickstarter in 2013 to recreate the lens. The campaign was a massive success and flooded the market with relatively affordable and easy-to-use Petzvals. Petzvals are for making beautiful portraits, not for chasing a trend, because when used right, there's nothing quite like them.
Want to plan your own Petzvals shot? In StudioBinder, you can customize your shot list with specific lenses.
That's all for now. Until next time, stay focused.